Science Museum because I just wanted to show you there's one thing that would like how they've changed the Moors to Islam, but they've only given it a small sector because they need to erase that part of the Moors and the history of the Moors. But we're just going to show you an example by coming into the Science Museum and seeing the parts of the history going from starting from the Egyptians. Like for instance, if you look around here, as a little bit of a joke, we've got hygiene, a toilet seat. Who made it first? That's the joke of it all. But at the end of the day, we can see the tools and the information, and even when you look here, you can see the knives and the things that the Egyptians did at their period of time. And you can look around. Right, there is even a statue of the most high and the most knowledgeable guy, which we will call Imhotep. Imhotep is right here, and he was the architect, he was the medical guy, he was the science guy, he was the guy that brought and started the basis of information on medical stuff and on information which he had learned and he had taught and he had provided for us, which they always try to say that Egypt is not part of Africa, but it is 100%. And you understand that. And if you look at Imhotep, you get the information and you can understand this. And this is in the Science Museum, you know. And you've got to understand that when it began in certain parts of Egypt, but it began all over Africa. As remember, Africa was built up on tribes, not countries, not Egypt, not Nigeria, not Ghana, not Gambia, not Uganda, not South Africa. It was all tribes. So we all can now call it the Middle Earth, Central Earth, whatever you like to call it. You know, these are names that people have put to suppress us, to put us into a box. At the end of the day, we began as tribes. But as we come here to show, identify you, because we're talking the Moors specifically at this precise moment, we start from the Egypt, and then we move on to the others. After we've talked about the Romans and we've done all the Roman stuff, now we can see that how they've said after the Romans is Islam. But hold on, wasn't it supposed to be the Moors after the Romans? It should have been, innit? But now they said when Islam ruled, when the Arab man ruled. So this is what they did from their period of time. And they try to say from AD 908 to the 1037. Huh? That doesn't make sense, but wasn't that the Moor period? But they won't tell us this. But look how short and small of evidence of what they did around the Moors' time, because they've tried to change. And look at how small little artifacts, but we had much more of what we did. But they will always say when we ruled, when Islam ruled. And you can look around and look at yourself and you think to yourself, this is impossible times, because they didn't have no medication, they didn't have no lot of stuff. They were just chopping and cutting and doing what they were doing. Without the Moors, they wouldn't have known their own history. Without the Moors, they won't be where they are today. Because after the Romans went into their so-called Dark Ages, but for me, it's Rome moved from Rome to Istanbul, where Constantine lived. So that was the second Rome. But the knowledge of the Moors is not relatively around no more. Because if you look around and you look at the statement, as you can see on this board here, and you look at the dates and the information, and then it says the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages was the period of when the Moors ruled. But they have now changed it to when Islam has ruled. So you've got to understand, why would they do that? It's because they try to change our mindset, to make us think differently. Because when they say when Islam ruled, is we look towards Saudi Arabia and all them kind of places, the Middle East. But they've only given it a small sector, because right now, if you look from the Middle East, remember, we came from Rome straight to the Middle East, and very in short periods of time. Now we've gone into Europe, and hold on here, the Middle East stops at 10 something, and then we have a massive jump from the 1500s all the way to the 1700s. So what's happened to the 1400s? What's happened to the 1300s? What's happened to the 1200s? What's happened to even the 1100s? This is the Moors' time. But they've tried to dismiss this, take the connection out, and you take out the information. You take out the information. We now don't know our history. This is why we need to investigate our history. This is why we need to get our information. So when next time you see me, you're on one of my tours on H.K.T.H, Knowledge and Travels. Come to my tours and I will open up your light. I will enlighten you to a lot of things, because at the end of the day you need to know your history, and then to know your thought process, and then to know your health, and then you can be on your journey to the right path of your life.